Once upon a time, our planet was a tropical paradise. Crocodile-like reptiles swam in warm seas that once covered what is now Wyoming, and the land belonged to giants. Dinosaurs ruled this world, and then they vanished. Scientists call this the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event. You probably know it simply as the day the dinosaurs disappeared. But what really happened? In a geological instant, about 1/5 of all life on Earth vanished. 16% of marine species, 18% of land species. That might not sound catastrophic until you consider that 200 million years earlier, the Permian extinction wiped out 60% of all species on the planet. Yet even that smaller loss was enough to break the entire ecosystem. Not a single medium or large land animal survived. For millions of years afterward, nothing larger than a house cat walked the earth. Ecosystems eventually recovered, but never again with dinosaurs. Or did they? Birds are their direct descendants. Archaeopteryx was the first dinosaur to master flight, and crocodiles are close dinosaur relatives too. But the true giants, Tyrannosaurus, the swift velociraptor, the colossal Brachiosaurus, and the sea-going plesiosaurs, were gone for good. So how do we even know this happened? It started in the late 18th century with an idea that was almost unthinkable. French scientist Georges Cuvier proposed that entire species could go extinct, a radical notion at a time when most people believed the world had been unchanging since creation. Cuvier saw history as a series of catastrophes, but he didn't believe in evolution, and his worldview faded once Charles Darwin published On the Origin of Species in 1859. Darwin's theory connected countless fossils into one coherent story of life's history. But Cuvier's catastrophist ideas didn't simply disappear. Scientists argued for the next 100 years about whether extinction was sudden or slow, until Darwin's gradual view became the accepted wisdom. By the mid-20th century, it was scientific common sense that dinosaurs simply faded out slowly. Researchers proposed dozens of explanations: flowering plants poisoning them with toxic alkaloids, or small mammals devouring their eggs into oblivion. There were nearly as many theories as there were scientists. And then, surprisingly, it turned out old Cuvier had been right all along. One rare metal would prove it: iridium. The breakthrough came in the 1970s. By then, scientists knew that in any stable ecosystem, roughly 5% of species are always quietly going extinct in the background, a tidy explanation that seemed to close the case. But in 1977, physicist Luis Alvarez discovered something strange: a thin layer of iridium sitting exactly on the boundary between the age of dinosaurs and the age that followed, in concentrations hundreds of times higher than anywhere else on Earth, the kind normally found only in meteorites. A year later, an oil exploration team found something enormous buried beneath the Gulf of Mexico, near Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, a colossal impact scar over 90 miles wide, its age matching perfectly with that strange iridium layer. As often happens in science, the discovery was dismissed at first, but within a few years, at a 1981 geology conference, scientists from around the world pooled their data, and a single, staggering picture emerged. Luis Alvarez's theory was confirmed. An asteroid really had struck the Earth, carving out the Chicxulub crater. But it turned out the asteroid hadn't been acting alone. About 72 million years ago, sea levels had already begun dropping by nearly 600 feet, throwing marine ecosystems into chaos, while the climate grew increasingly unstable. Average global temperatures hovered around 77 degrees Fahrenheit, far warmer than today. But between 68 and 66 million years ago, the climate swung wildly. plunging 18 degrees and snapping back again, over and over. 500,000 years before the final extinction, lucid volcanic eruptions began tearing across what is now India. Enormous rivers of lava poured out across millions of square miles, choking the atmosphere with ash and toxic gas and triggering a volcanic winter. It wasn't just cold. Acid rain fell from the sky, and the oceans grew more acidic. Life wasn't extinct yet, but the planet had already taken a devastating blow. A slow recovery might have followed if not for what happened 6 to 6 million years ago. An asteroid over 6 miles wide slammed into the Earth. Billions of tons of rock vaporized in an instant, blasted into ash and soot that wrapped around the entire planet. Tsunamis tore into coastlines around the world. Flaming debris rained from the sky, heating the atmosphere by hundreds of degrees and turning the air itself into a furnace for several terrifying minutes. The shockwave triggered volcanic eruptions across the globe. In moments, the tropical paradise became hell on Earth. Scorching heat, sulfuric acid rain, wildfires everywhere, and a sun blotted out by smoke. It was a catastrophe of almost biblical scale, and yet the impact alone might not have been quite so devastating if the oceans hadn't already been in crisis. The true foundation of marine life was phytoplankton, microscopic organisms that fed zooplankton, which in turn fed fish, krill, jellyfish, and mollusks. And those fed the great predators, ammonites, and the long-necked plesiosaurs. Climate chaos had already devastated the plankton, so by the time the asteroid struck, the ocean food chain had nearly collapsed. Ocean productivity crashed to almost nothing. Only a few cephalopods, along with creatures tied partly to land, amphibians, turtles, and crocodiles, managed to survive. Any marine reptiles that endured the impact itself were finished off by the ocean acidification that followed. On land, the story was different. While climate chaos crushed ocean life, it pushed land ecosystems to specialize and diversify. Near the end of the Cretaceous, flowering plants spread rapidly. Grasses appeared for the first time, and turf carpeted the ground. By day, the land belonged to cold-blooded reptilian giants. By night, it belonged to small, scurrying mammals. Mammals occupied the bottom of the food chain, while dinosaurs ruled the middle and top. When the asteroid struck, that hierarchy became a death sentence. The ocean catastrophe had wiped out plankton, and on land, the catastrophe wiped out plants. For the first few years after impact, daytime looked like a moonless night. Most plant life died, and with it, the food supply for every herbivore on the planet. The giant sauropods, enormous leaf-eating dinosaurs that fed from treetops, were among the very first to disappear. Other herbivores followed, and then the predators that hunted them vanished too, with nothing left to eat. Small theropods held on a little longer, and might have actually survived this extinction if not for one final problem: competition. Birds and mammals outcompeted them in this brutal new world. Small theropods had neither wings to escape danger nor warm blood to survive the bitter cold. Birds and mammals survived the extinction too, but barely. 90% of them died out as well. Decades after the impact, Earth's surface looked unrecognizable, and a far colder but slowly healing. Vegetation returned first, as surviving seeds finally sprouted after years buried in darkness and cold. Surviving organisms began spreading into a world suddenly full of empty ecological niches. 3 groups in particular rose to dominate this new Earth. First, bony fish, once a minor branch of the family tree. Today, they make up the vast majority of fish species we know. Second, mammals. Once small, nocturnal creatures living in the shadows of dinosaurs, they suddenly found themselves at the top of the world, exploding in size and diversity within just 100,000 years. Those mammals are the ancestors of you and me, and third, somewhat ironically, dinosaurs themselves. One surviving branch, birds, gained a massive advantage in this transformed world. Their small size and ability to fly let them not just survive, but thrive. Today, there are more than 10,000 species of birds on Earth. A million years after the extinction, Earth was teeming with life once more. But it was an entirely different world. A different climate, different ecosystems, different forms of life, and of course, no more giant reptiles ruling as kings of the planet. In the end, the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction wasn't caused by one single event. It was a perfect storm of climate change, volcanic catastrophe, and a city-killing asteroid, all colliding at once. And yet, despite it all, life survived and pushed forward, just as it always has after every great extinction. Dinosaurs will probably never again rule this planet, but their evolutionary descendants are flying past your window right now. And who knows that, maybe someday, some other intelligent species will tell this same story about you and me.